science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
For newcomers and old-timers alike, the Chloe Sanctuary hopes to give you insight into the health and happiness of your companion parrots. We hope to help you build happy homes using reliable and proven tools. The best homes are built on a rock-solid foundation. And the best foundation for a happy home is the bedrock of science. When we stand on the shoulders of giants, the scientists who have worked long and diligently to understand our companions, we can reach new heights of understanding. And understanding is the key to success.
I think treated, most of these birds have a good prognosis, and I would say
What does avian veterinary medicine have to tell us about our feathered friends? How can we prevent illness, see the signs of disease before it's too late, and care for our birds through ill health? What light does behavioral science shed on their nature, needs, and hopes? How can the tools of behavior shaping make our homes happier for us and our companions?
Shake.
How can we deal with biting, screaming, or other misbehavior? What is it like to live among parrots? Let them roam around about you and share a life with them. How much freedom do you give them? What happens if you form a bond of trust with them? Watch and see what understanding their true nature can do for you. Come with us on a journey as we do more than examine a parrot's world. We live in it. Make some popcorn and bring in a few wood blocks. Let everyone have something to chew and a comfortable place to perch. Cockatude is a presentation of the Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.
I'd like to do a big shout out to those people who make this video cast possible. Cockatude would not be possible without our patrons. Thank you to those of you who make one-time donations. Without these patrons giving us of their hard-earned cash, we couldn't continue doing this podcast.
Hi, and welcome to Cockatude, Cockatoos with Attitude, Episode 76, Parrot Babysitting. Babysitting? I think these guys babysit me more than I babysit them. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about babysitting parrots. Now, when you go on a trip, you may need a babysitter. On the same point, you may be babysitting for a friend of yours. And there are pointers for both. We're going to cover what to do if you need to have your bird babysit first. But before we get to that, just a quick update. All of our birds have gone down, with the exception of Roman, who would freak out, and had their 3-hour trip to the vet. And $1,800 later, we have confirmed that all these birds are doing well. Lucy's beak it's finally now a completely normal beak. It's taken almost a year to get it down to where it should be. It's leveled out on the bottom where it should be, and she has the right length on her upper mandible. She's looking good, aren't ya? Yeah, when she first got here, she really couldn't eat. You know, so she still likes the syringe in the morning, but she eats a lot on her own now, don't you, baby? Yeah. Pretty girl. She's a pretty girl. Aren't ya? Let's see. So she's still getting medicine in one eye. She had a little infection, and that happened the day before I went, so it wasn't so tough to say, hey, doc, let's get some antibiotic for that eye. And Peaches, she was good. Pip, 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 Pippa! Good girl, Pippa. Oh, well said, Pippa. Well said. That's a good girl. Good girl, Pippa. Good girl. Yes, that's Pippa. You may not recognize her. She looks a little different, don't you, Pip? That's Lorelei. Yeah. Pip, Pip, Pippa. Pip, Pip, Pippa. What's up, Pip? What's up, Pip? What's up, Pip? That's my Pip. Pip. You look a little different than you used to look, Pip. You look good. You look good. Yeah, everybody tested out okay on the blood tests. Dr. Jenkins likes us to get blood tests every 5 years, unless, of course, there's something that pops up. So we had 7 blood tests this year. We had a lot of them going up for blood tests. We won't have to do blood tests for another 2 more years, so we'll have a couple of birds coming up for it then. But all the tests came out good on the blood. Peaches, I had to have one side of her looked at because it's really sensitive, but it's okay. She does seem to have a tendency to get compacted oil in her uropygeal gland, and Dr. Jenkins said I need to squeeze harder. I squeeze pretty hard, but I got to squeeze harder because it tends to get impacted in there. What they normally do is they just remove them on cockatoos if there's a problem. But in her case, as long as I can squeeze it and it doesn't get all built up in there, there's no reason to do it. That's another reason she could be sensitive down there. But she's okay. Yeah, I haven't introduced who's in here today. We've got Lucy, Peaches, Lorelei, who is currently producing an egg, aren't you, girl? It's already formed the shell, so anytime she's about ready to lay. I doubt she'll lay on videos today, but anything's possible. We got Cause over here, the one who made such a big ruckus last time, didn't you, girl? Well, Cecil's not in here, so she won't do that. I did ask Cecil to come in, but he did not want to leave his cage. It happens. Coco. Right, Coco? I don't, with all the cameras we have, I don't think I have an angle that's going to catch her, but we'll catch her at some point. We have Sugar up there, and Pippa, and Sugar, and Salamander. Mander the salamander, right? So we got a pretty big crew in here today, don't we? Yeah. So anyway, let's get on to the subject. Now, if you're going to get a bird sitter for your bird, you're leaving for a couple of weeks, your bird's going to be, no matter what you do, your bird's going to freak out, okay? So the first thing you want to do is start telling your bird a week or 2 in advance that you're leaving. It won't understand your words. A lot of people think when I say that they assume that I think that the bird will understand. What it will understand is that you're saying something important to it. They understand that you're like, well, I'm going to be leaving. And they get the tone of voice. They understand that you're trying to communicate something to them. And so when you do vanish and you say goodbye, they can figure it out. At least they can figure out that that's probably what you were talking about this thing. And it does seem to help. We don't know how much they understand in the situation, but it does seem to help. So if you're going to do this, you don't want to give your bird to someone to watch, either if they come over to your place or if they take your bird in their home, you don't want to give it to someone who doesn't know what they're doing, okay? You don't want to say, well, Aunt Martha, she'll take care of my bird. She said she would. She's never even seen the bird. She's going to take care of it. You don't know what your bird will be like when you come back. It may be missing its feathers, because although taking off on vacation or leaving your bird alone won't cause feather destructive behavior, it can cue it. The cause of feather destructive behavior is being raised in an incubator and raised by humans instead of their parents. They miss steps in their development, and those steps cause, those missteps cause that to happen. It's terribly common, just like cats that they'll get on you and lick your shirt until it's completely soaked if they're taken away from their mother too early, or dogs that will chew on themselves until they bleed. Those are both from missing steps in their normal development. With birds, they miss so many steps, we get a lot of problems. But anyway, your best bet, if you can, is talk to your avian vet and see if you can find a licensed and bonded avian vet. Talk to your avian vet about a licensed and bonded professional that cares for birds in the home. You want somebody licensed and bonded because you want to protect your home, of course, and your bird. You want them both protected. What are you guys doing over there? Oh, you guys are something else. You know it? Lorelei and Coco will just preen themselves to death. They're big preeners, so.
I'd like to urge you to please give us at least $1 per episode. It's not easy taking care of birds that are severely damaged, both emotionally and physically. So, please, I urge you, become one of our patrons. And I'm sure that Peaches would thank all of our patrons in person if she got the chance.
Now, even though you're getting somebody who's licensed and bonded, come here, Pip. Come on, Pip. You're going to be a fireman someday. Yes, you are. You're going to be a fire person. You like to go down those poles, don't you? Yeah, you do. You still need to get references, okay? And when I say, getting a professional, that's not a mostly cat and dog sitter, okay? Somebody who doesn't know birds is not going to sit for them very well. And most people are afraid of those beaks. They don't understand about the intelligence of these animals. They think they can just throw a little food at them and leave. No, they have to have some time. And you'll have to talk with whoever's going to do the sitting, professional, and tell them, they need 2 hours a day or they need whatever. And pay whatever it's going to cost you to do that, because you don't want to come back and find that your bird is psychotic. It's kind of like, say, I'm going to go off on vacation and leave my child in a closet, and someone's going to come occasionally and shove food under the door. You're going to come back to a kid that's all screwed up. And it's illegal to do with children. You could get away with it with birds, but it wouldn't be right, would it? No. Now, you're going to have to tell them what the bird eats and what time it eats and how often the water gets changed and all those kind of things, right? And some of that stuff we're going to cover on You're Caring for Some Other Person's Bird. So you got Uncle Joe is taking off. Uncle Joe and Aunt Jane are taking off, and they want you to take care of Romeo. Okay? Well, you can take care of Romeo while we're gone. He's pretty good. He shouldn't be a problem. It's like, that's nice. Okay, now you're a bird person, so you start asking the basic questions, right? Am I comfortable with being bitten? What if Romeo decides that, he'd rather draw blood? Now, when they do that, usually it's because of something we've done. They're trying to get a certain response, okay? Behavior is a function of its consequences. So if biting you will get you to get the heck out of their cage, because they don't want you in their cage, they're being territorial, in other words, then that's what they'll do. If they learn that that works. Or if screaming all the time will get you to come over to their cage, just starting to scream will get you to come over, then maybe this bird wasn't a screamer, but it starts screaming and you walk over, or it's just squawking. Now, screaming is repetitive, where they do it every couple of seconds and it lasts for hours. But say the bird makes a whole bunch of ruckus and you walk over, well, now you're training the bird to scream. So, where it's going to just repeat this over and over, trying to get you over to their cage. So, it's important that you understand the basic ways to work with birds and you don't cause problems yourself. Okay? So how are you going to deal with functional misbehavior? We call it functional because it serves a function to the bird. Okay? If yelling gets you to come over to their cage, then it serves a function. Yelling gets them to come over. That's why they do it. Okay? So you don't want to provide that kind of function. So if they make noise, you want to ignore it. And when they do something good, or make a sound that you like, you want to reinforce it. You want to give them attention then. So you're going to have to, this is, again, you're asking yourself, can I deal with, misbehaviors? If you can't say positively that you will continue to properly care for, and that includes giving them the time they need out of the cage, okay? If you can't say positively that you will continue to properly care for the bird and handle the bird if problems develop, don't babysit. You shouldn't do it, okay? One thing, that people often do is they overcommit. Oh, sure, I'll take care of your bird. And the worst story I know about that is Corazon, this bird that was, I changed the name. I actually have a story written about what happened there, but the husband died. He got his wife to say, oh, please promise me that you'll take care of my bird. She did all right. She put it in the back room. She didn't know what to do with it, and she fed it in a dark back room. It tore out its feathers. It was bleeding all over the place after a couple of years, and it got rescued, but it was never normal, and it lived a few more years with some happiness. But you don't want to leave a bird with someone who isn't completely committed to taking care of them, no matter what the bird does. Okay, so that's important. If you don't feel you can do that, don't babysit. Now, you can find, and there's a great book for this, and I'll put it on the screen. Okay, it's the Sanctuary Manual. You can also find out on behaviorworks.org. You can find Parrots in Temporary Shelters. And obviously, you're going to be a temporary shelter for this bird, all right? So there's a lot of good information in there. Dr. Susan Friedman, PhD. And behaviorworks.org. Just look under written works. You'll find it there, or you can see it in our show notes. There's a link to it in our show notes. Those are great places to look, but birds are wary of new people, okay? In new places, new things, and if the bird's coming to your home, or that's a new place, and there's all kinds of new things around, so you're going to get new behaviors. You're going to get strange behaviors. They're wary. Cockatoos, not as much as old world parrots like Amazons or macaws, but still, they're wary. So even if it's just you going to someone's home, you're a bird person, and five homes down, there's a friend of yours who also has birds, and you're going to go over there and take care of them. They've seen you in that situation before, but they haven't seen you as the primary care. Okay? So if problem circumstances are going to come up, it's going to be then, because the bird's going to try to gain some kind of control over these new circumstances. And that control can include biting or screaming or other behaviors that you may not want. You want to reduce the stress of the bird under those circumstances. And that's what you're going to try to do to the greatest degree possible while they're in your care. And if you keep that in your mind, you can develop trust with the bird, and you can empower the bird. So if the bird feels that it has control over its environment, and that doesn't mean that it controls you by biting you or screaming at you, but it feels that it can get what it needs from you, then things will be fine. Questions, now let's get into some questions you need to ask. Is the bird gender biased? Now that's the kind of thing that you can fix with a bird, but you've heard people say, well, my bird doesn't like women. Well, you know what? I've got birds that with me that say, we have birds here that people said that about, and initially they were. This is one. She was biased against women. And in fact, the first time a woman got close to her, she tried to attack her. Didn't actually hurt her, but she flew up into her face and that kind of thing. I stopped her before there was any real problem, before she got too close to her face, but that's what she tried to do. So I've worked with that, and she doesn't exhibit that behavior anymore. Now, if there is a gender bias, are you the right gender? Okay. And is there somebody else in your home, if you're taking care of it in your home? Or is there someone you might be bringing with you that's the wrong gender? Are you going to be causing problems? Although these things can be fixed, it's not going to be fixed in a temporary situation where someone's gone a couple of weeks. Okay. Now, when this person that wants you to take care of their bird, are they listening to their bird? Are they a good match? Are you a good match for that bird? Or is the person just, I gotta go on vacation, I gotta find somebody? Some people will, and those people will often say, oh, this bird, she'll be no problem for you, Romeo will be no problem for you, no worries, right? Beware the person who says, oh, it's no problem. Now, they're going to be in a different situation, so there's no way if that person knows. Anyway, it's going to be come on up, Sal. Come on. Step on up. There's the salamander. Hi, Meander. Hey, Sal. Oh, you don't need to eat that. That's my ankle brace. Yeah. 14,000 steps, and sometimes those ankles just can't handle it. When you have gout, you start to lose your joints, too, so they get weak. I gotta lose about 50 pounds, and salamander's gonna help me, aren't you? Yeah. I'm gonna take the weight off these ankles and knees. And sometimes the people will honestly not think there's a problem. I remember once when I first got Chloe, I took her to a vet, which I would never, ever go back to again, but I took her to the vet, and I said, she doesn't bite. And the vet looked at me and goes, well, I've heard that before. Well, Chloe doesn't. In 38 years, there's no history of her ever biting any human, so, but in a new situation, with a new person caring for them, and if they're not getting what they need, a good example there is I had I had made a trade with Pepe. Pepe went down to, this is before we became a sanctuary only, went down to a place that they had an umbrella, Roman, who wasn't doing well and starting to tear up his feathers. So we made a switch. And so Pepe went there and Roman came here. Well, he wasn't properly cared for in his mind at that facility. And we were trying to find a home for him. He did find a good home. He found a great home. All that worked out. But the day I went down to show him to those people, he hadn't been getting what he wanted. He didn't have the right toys in his cage, and I didn't look. I was going around, going whoop-de-doop-de-doop. I wasn't paying attention. So I opened that cage door, and he launched out and just chewed my arm right down to the tendons right here, okay? And they were running around trying to find a towel, and there was no towel at this facility, and it was awful. But anyway, put him back in the cage, got myself all fixed up, went back, got him out again. Everything was fine. He had to get that out of his system. But, when you change the way a bird's cared for, you can see some different behaviors. So keep that in mind. If you have birds, the bird that you're going to bring into your home has to be thoroughly vetted for all communicable diseases. No exceptions, okay? You need proof from the vet. You want to make sure that they don't have psittacosis. They don't show any signs of PDD. We don't have any good tests for that, so they don't show signs of PDD. And they don't have any of the other diseases. We have a whole video on the avian diseases, and I suggest you watch that as well. But your birds need to be vetted too, okay, for the safety of your friend's bird. Now, if you don't have a bird, you still need to get that bird checked for psittacosis, because it's a form of chlamydia, and humans can contract it. They call it parrot fever. You don't want it, because you'll feel like you have a cold, and this will go on for a long time. But if you don't get treated, it can kill you. If you're older, or if you're young, or if you're sick, it could kill you. It has done that. So you need to make sure the bird's at least checked for psittacosis, okay? If you have birds, you got to run through the whole thing, the whole gamut. Now, too, if they're taking their birds to places where that bird could pick up diseases, maybe you don't want to do this. If they're taking it to the bird store to get it clipped, hey, leave him alone. Don't do that to him, okay? If they're taking their bird to get it clipped or the nails done at a bird store, that's a place where disease can be everywhere, because it's transmitted in fecal dust and it's transmitted in feather dust. So you probably don't want to babysit a bird that they're taking out like that. Now, if they're going to bird stores and they're hanging around in there for a while and coming home, they could be bringing home diseases too. So you need to make sure that they go through the whole test sequence again. And if your friends say, well, they seem fine. Well, yeah, we had a bird here who seemed fine. She passed all the tests for disease that were communicable. The only problem was she was dying. She was old, so we didn't know that until the necropsy. So vetted and not being constantly, not being taken to places where there's potential of disease, and the people are not going to a bird store and bringing home potential disease, okay? And if you're going to take care of a bird, the ideal situation, after you've done all the vetting, is that you have a relationship with the bird. Because, let's say the bird's coming to your home, that's a totally different situation. So you really would help if you have a good relationship. If you can develop a relationship in a week or two, fine. It's better. Don't eat my clothing, please. That's not nice. Need more sticks? If I give you more sticks, you won't eat my clothes. There you go. I have so many shorts with holes in them. I have a lot of darning to do, don't I? Because someone I know eats my clothing. You're trying to do it too. Let's not do that. If you don't have a relationship and you have some time, develop one, okay? Now, even if you've developed a good relationship with a bird, it's going to undergo changes. It's going to undergo changes when they leave and you're doing the care, okay? So keep that in mind. Also, when you're caring for that bird, do not improperly pet it. You will see me pet some of these birds other than on the head. You know, do as I say, not as I do. In some cases, I actually am mated to these birds, like with Peaches, and I will touch them elsewhere. You shouldn't do it. If I touch a bird like her, Lucy is not mated to me. You see me touch her, petting her down the back, I'm making a mistake. I probably have enough training to turn that problem around, but don't do it, okay? You don't want a bird to become territorial. And if they become your mate, and your friend comes back, and now they start biting your friend, that's your fault, and you have to fix it. Even if it means you have to go take a $750 ABA course with Dr. Friedman, okay? You're responsible, you fix it. Now, you can count on when you're taking care of this bird or birds, you can count on something. You can count that they're going to learn something from every encounter with you. Okay? And they have learned from every encounter they've had. If they learned, as Bob did, that if he lunges forward, people will back off, then if he needs you to get away and he lunges and you back up, you're just reinforcing an old behavior. In fact, that's how I dealt with Bob. He lunged at me within the first, 10 minutes I had started dealing with him where he was. He wasn't with us at the time. And I put my hand closer to his beak and he turned away like, that's not what you're supposed to do. And I kind of knew that. I could have gotten bitten, but I didn't think it would happen. And even if it did, as long as you don't scream and reinforce it, you try to keep your mouth as shut as you can when you get bit, because you end up reinforcing a bite. You don't want a bird that bites all the time. But he learned from that encounter that I wasn't going to respond to that. So it's not an issue that I've had to deal with until recently, now that he's sick and he's going through that prolapse. We're kind of lucky. In the latest vet visit, he's actually improved. He has more tone down there. Nowhere near what he should have. He doesn't have the stitches. They came out. They will over time. Don't eat my clothing, please. But his insides aren't coming out, okay? So right now he doesn't have the stitches. The doc wants me to just keep an eye on him and see how long we can go without stitches. This is unusual. Normally that doesn't happen. They just continually get worse and have to be re-sewn up. So we have him on a special diet. That seems to be helping, but there's no way to prove that that's why he's improving. Anyway, they're going to change when they're with you and dealing with you. So just be careful not to get mated to the bird, and also not to respond to it in such a way as to create negative behaviors. We have a whole series of training on working with birds. Wouldn't hurt to go through them. Now, if the bird needs something or it wants something and you're not providing it, after a while the bird will give up asking, okay? And usually develop some kind of misbehavior. So try to enable the bird. Let the bird communicate with you and make choices on its own. If you can do that, such as if it's about time for you to go, say about 15 minutes before you would normally go, you start testing to see how the bird feels about going back into its cage. And if it doesn't seem like it really wants to, then you can put treats in the cage, or you can, start doing something like maybe a little training with the bird, teaching it. If it doesn't know how to step up or how to go after a target, you teach it those behaviors. And then right after that, you put them in the cage. Or if one thing you can do too is you can have a bird step up and then step up and then step up and then step up. So you're repeating things. It's kind of like the salesman who goes, "Well, it's a nice day out, isn't it?" Yes. It is great to have a beautiful day like this, isn't it? Yes. You keep going, in other words, you keep going for the yes. Get the customer to say yes. And then you say, well, that stereo that we have over here, is that what you're looking for? You have a much better chance of them saying yes. You're not going to eat that. No, easy. It's all right. I'm not trying to hurt you. I just don't want you eating my ankle brace, okay? You all right? Little girl, you okay, girl? Little girl. Pip, Pippa. Pip. So try to give them choices. If they're allowed to make choices, wherever possible, such as where to go, or which 2 things to eat, or 3 things they can eat, or when they go back into their cage, that kind of thing. They're going to be a lot happier, and you're going to have a better experience babysitting that bird. So remember to empower the bird, not to overpower it. When you're working with the bird, make sure that there's something in it for them, okay? You don't want to force them. You want to help them make a choice that's positive for you and for them. Now, some basics. You need to know that that's phone number, okay, address. You need to check with the vet to make sure that arrangements have been made should there problems come up. So that anything that, if there is a problem, it'll be paid for. That's all covered. Make sure you have written permission to work with, to have this bird and have it cared for. You don't do that. You don't bite at her feathers. You two, be nice to each other. Be nice to her. You be nice too. And don't eat. No, you're not going to eat that. Nope. Hi, Lorelei. Leave it alone. You just get all focused on that, don't you? Leave it alone. Whoops, there she goes.
Peaches is an amazing personality. Her daily maintenance requires dedication and mindfulness. She requires 2 forms of medicine, 7-course meals, and effort to entice her to eat. Extensive preening every day, special tools to trim nails, constant attention to her vocalizations, daily walks, and twice yearly checkups due to the possibility of impacted feather follicles and the nature of her spinal injuries. It seems a common misconception among the general public that parrots are like toys in a toy box. Nothing could be further from the truth. They are complex creatures. Recently, scientific studies have shown them to be at least as intelligent as chimpanzees. Every captive parrot needs special humans who will dedicate themselves to understanding them, those who know their species as it lives in the wild, special people that understand their social, mental, and physical needs. They need to be understood for what they are, and not as merely human companions, as circus performers to bring smiles. Peaches needs all this and more. She is our special girl. Will you help us care for Peaches? Please make a donation today at our website, chloesanctuary.org. That's spelled CHLOESANCTUARY.org. As a special thank you for your donation, we will joyfully send you a postcard with Peach's happy face.
You need to have a first aid kit. You want to make sure it has everything you need for the bird. You're going to need one for yourself too, bandages and things in case you get bit or whatever. But you need to have one of those for yourself. But if possible, a home hospital cage in case you have to take the bird to the vet and you will need to bring it back and it needs to be in a warm place to recover. That's usually it's a special cage or an aquarium that you've set up. It's going to have food and water containers, a paper tray liner. On that you're going to want to use, if they have to stand on the paper, it's best if it has a little grate and the paper goes underneath it so that they don't have to walk in the poop. And you can use newspaper in that situation. Otherwise, it's going to need to be some kind of white paper, like construction paper or something, right? A heating pad that's safe. Something to heat them up. They actually have something that's made specifically for birds to keep them warm in those situations. You need paper towels and towels for them to sit on if they're in the cage and they need to be kept warm. A thermometer so it doesn't get too hot or too cold, right? Right, Pippa? Right, Pippa? Now, the first aid kit, I'll put this in the show notes, but you need to have gauze, cotton-tipped applicators, in other words, Q-tips or something like that. cotton balls, rubbing alcohol, scissors, latex or nitrile gloves, betadine solution, a bottle of saline solution for eye wash, superclot for bleeding. You can use styptic, but superclot is just so much better. I recommend keeping it around for about 6 months and then replacing it though, because it will kind of separate after 6 months. Tweezers, a metal nail file, and also those, and just your regular abrasive nail files as well. Hydrogen peroxide to clean off a wound or to clean feathers if there's blood on them. It's not going to disinfect anything though, but it will help you see what's down there, what needs to be, if there's something. It'll help you to look at a wound or to get rid of blood discoloration on the feathers. You should have some Silvadine. Yeah, that's prescription though, but that works if you have a problem with the skin. Say if the bird's choose that's on the skin. Let's hope you're not taking care of a mutilator. So, also some miscellaneous things: Band-Aids, waterless hand cleaner, an illuminated magnifying lens, pen light or headlamp. Those headlamps are great because you can put them on and then it focuses right where you need to see. A writing pad or pen. I don't use that much, but in these situations, I do. You don't want to have to pull out your phone and type on it. It's just easier with a writing pad and pen if you're dealing with an issue with a bird. And of course, you need the contact information for your vet. And also the Poison Control Center, because they can help you if a bird ingested something it shouldn't have. Now, the owner needs to provide you with a list of favorite foods, especially foods that are valuable as reinforcers. So, if you have a bird that doesn't want to go back into its cage, but it loves sunflower seeds, well, and sunflower seeds aren't as bad as people think they are. It's like anything else. If you feed them a whole bunch of sunflower seeds all the time, well, it's not going to be good for them. But if they eat them a little here and there and get them as reinforcers, as we call it treats, people call them treats, but in this case you're reinforcing behavior with them, they come in real handy, and it's not going to hurt them to have a little bit of sunflower. These guys get 4 or 5 sunflower seeds a day. It's hardly anything, and it doesn't hurt them at all. It's also important to know what times they normally eat. If a bird normally eats at 7 in the morning, but you're going to come by at 10, you're going to have a hungry bird. So you may need to leave extra food out at night because you're going to be there later. You also need to know if they have specific times they usually come out for play. You need to know those. And if you aren't going to be doing it at those times, then you'll be dealing with a bird that's expecting something that isn't getting what it needs. So again, you may have to use reinforcers, treats or petting or whatever it takes to make the bird feel better if you're not going to be dealing with it in the way it's used to be dealt with. If the bird's getting out 3 hours a day, then you should really commit to doing the same. Now maybe you can't, maybe you can only do 2 hours or even 1 hour, but that means you're going to have to work hard to make that bird happy. You don't want to get it depressed. How come you're just sitting there? It's all right, sweetie. What's the matter, Pip? Are you okay? You all right, Pippa? She's all right. She's okay. Don't try to establish new activities unless you see that the bird's not doing so well. You want to kind of stick to the routine that they tell you about. But if the bird is, like say, it's doing strobing the bars, it's got its beak and it's going back and forth, or it's going like this with its head, you start to notice these kind of weird behaviors starting up, then you need to go ahead and encourage some new behaviors. Find some new activity. Maybe sit down with the bird in front of the television set and turn it on and watch a movie. You'll never hear me recommend watching TV because I hate it. Billions of dollars they spend on making these movies, right? And you get to watch something that they put hours and planning into, and then with the TV show they make a script and they throw it together and it's done in a few days. I mean, no, thank you. I get enough entertainment from these guys. You guys are really quiet today. Should I tickle you? Coco, should I tickle you? What are you doing? Oh, I put you down there. Are you okay? You okay? No, she wasn't feeling good, so I had to put her up here. You okay? You feeling better, Pippa? Pippa, you okay? Ah, that's my Pippa. No. Here. Pippa, Pippa, Pippa. So you'll be running into situations where the bird may get upset. Or it may start to show too much affection to you. If you've got a bird that starts fanning its tail or opening up its feathers trying to get you petted under there, you're going to need to find a way to have that bird out where it's not getting too much handling by you, because you do not want the bird to mate to you. That wouldn't be fair to the owner of the bird. I don't even like to say that. The primary caregiver. Okay. So you need to be observant. Now, two, make sure that you get a list of all the behavioral quirks. If the bird, for example, I was talking about the bird strobing the bars. If the bird normally does that, then there's no reason for you to freak out about it. It would be nice to get the bird to stop, but if it's a normal behavior, it's a behavior they see all the time, it's not something that you need to worry about when you're babysitting. Do they have a way of dealing with it? If they see the bird doing something like that, do they have their particular way of changing it? Have them show you, okay? But your goal, your primary goal is to change the bird's routine as little as possible, okay? So let's review. Change the bird's routine as little as possible. You should do everything you can to minimize stress for the bird. And you should provide enrichment without supplanting the owner's status. In other words, make the bird feel comfortable without taking over the owner's place in the bird's life. Now, if you don't have birds, but you've got cats or dogs or ferrets, even if you do have birds and you have those, you don't want to babysit. I know there was one lady who had a dog, and she said, "Oh, my dog never goes after the birds." Well, it did, and it killed her bird, okay? And this is one that she saved, rescued, and it was in a horrible situation, and then she lost it. Now, imagine how you'd feel if you bring in a bird and for some reason your dog decides, that's a bird I can kill. And so you don't want to be the person to have to explain to your friend why your dog killed their bird. So if you have predators, cats, dogs, ferrets, whatever, don't babysit. Just don't do it. I don't care how much they beg you. Now, if it's in the winter, and say you don't have birds, but you know birds, you've had them before, and that's not a problem. But you don't have a generator if the power goes out, and you're living somewhere where it gets really cold and it's winter. How are you going to protect the birds if the power goes out? There's no heat. Or if it's really hot, you're in Arizona, and it's the middle of summer, and what are you going to do if the power goes out? Again, you're caring for somebody else's bird, so you should know the answers to that. How are you going to, do you have a generator? Is there some place you can take the bird where it's going to be safe in the heat? These are things to consider. Do you have mental midgets, little dwarves that are constantly opening and closing the doors? Kids or teenagers? I think it's probably easier to deal with little children than it is to deal with teenagers, but is your home safe for a flighted bird? We always hope that most birds are flighted, but if the bird is flighted, even if it's not flighted, you don't want to have little dwarves opening and closing the doors all the time, because the bird could get out, and even a bird that's clipped can fly. a little bit of wind, we're talking 4 or 5 mile an hour wind. The thing is, they can't come back because they've lost the ability to control their flight. So, if they've been clipped. So, if you have little dwarves and they're constantly opening and closing the doors, then you probably don't want to babysit. Unless, of course, you have a set, let's say they're going out the kitchen door, or you can pick a door they can go out. You're going out this door from now on. And you're, let's say, in the living room, and you have that front door locked so they can't come in and out, then that may work. But you got to plan that. Now, I mentioned before that you need to know what they've been eating, but if they're getting fresh veggies or they're getting a mash made, you must know what they normally eat and be able to provide it for them, okay? And don't introduce new foods. Unless you talk to the owner and they say, yeah, I've tried to get them to eat these Harrison's pellets now for a year and they won't eat them. It's okay for you to try to do that. If you get permission, that's something they want. But don't introduce new foods. And then when they go home, now that food is no longer there. Talk that out with the owner. Now, you should let the pace of your interactions with the bird be set by the parrot itself. So if bird likes to come out and sit and be quiet, but you want the bird to talk, and you're trying to encourage it to talk when it just wants to sit and be quiet, that's not letting the bird set the pace of the interaction. So if the bird also, let's say, if it likes to come out of its cage slowly, don't try to force that. Let it come out slowly. If it steps up slowly, don't force it. Let it step up slowly. Let the bird choose the speed of the interactions. So let the bird choose how quickly to do things. All right? Otherwise, you're going to possibly elicit some negative behaviors, some misbehaviors that you don't want, okay? There may be behaviors that are quite difficult for you to live with if you try to push a bird. Basically, there's 2 kinds of behaviors you can get from a bird, okay? In a situation where it doesn't like what you're doing, one is a behavior to get you to go away, such as biting or refusing to come out of the cage. And the other one is like continuous screaming or hanging on to you like you're made of Velcro. When they do these things, it's important to realize that these behaviors aren't happening in a vacuum. There's a reason they're exhibiting these behaviors, and you should do your best to deep dive into why. Try to figure out what's causing these particular behaviors. And basically, there's going to be some cue in their environment. Let's say that you come home and they're in your home. You come home, and when you open the door, they immediately squawk. So you've been going right over to their cage, and then like this. You did this the first day, the second day, the third day. You have to get into the kitchen for something, so you don't do it. And then they go squawk, 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 squawk. Well, they were used to a certain thing. They were getting, squawk once, get you to come over. Now you're not coming over. You don't want to train them to scream. So when you start to see something like that, think, what have I been doing? And what am I not doing now? And that'll often get you right out of that. You'll figure out what you're doing wrong and you can fix it, okay? So to be sure to read our show notes, you're not going to chew my chair over there. Be sure to read our show notes. And if you want to learn more about this stuff, we have good links. The Avian Welfare Organization online has a number of pamphlets that you can just download from online. No, salamander, no. Thank you. Come on, over here, Sal. Come on. That's my boy. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. That's my salamander. What a good bird. What a good bird. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. Yeah. His favorite reinforcement being petted, isn't it, boy? Isn't it? Yeah. He'll listen if he knows he's going to get petted when he comes over, won't you? Won't you? So make sure that you're prepared. Check out those links in our show notes. They go to the Avian Welfare Organization online and also to Behavior Works. And read through all that stuff before you decide you're going to take care of someone else's birds. And also make sure that if you're going to get a bird of yours cared for, the person knows what they're doing and they're comfortable with this information. If they're professionals, they should be licensed and bonded, and you can often get that information from your vet. So, Pippa, do you want to say goodbye to the people? Do you want to say goodbye to the people? Pippa? Pippa? Say goodbye to the people? Pippa girl! Pippa girl! There you go. Say goodbye, people! That's my girl. We welcome your feedback on our videos. We look forward to your insights, tips, questions, stories, and pictures. You can email us at cockatude@chloesanctuary.org, reach us on Twitter @ChloeSanctuary, and join with us on our Facebook Chloe Sanctuary page.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Pippa, what you doing, Pip? Pippa. Pippa. Coco. Coco. Bob, what are you doing? What you doing? What do you think? Any comments? You never had me in a cage before. What's up, Pippa? Hanging by the food and water, are you? Coco, what are you doing? Oh, you don't want to eat my watch. What are you doing, Bobberly? That's my boy. What's going on? I kind of get the feel for what it's like for you guys, being inside the cage with you, you know? Hello. Hello, Peach. What you doing over there, Peaches? You got your own little perch, huh? Yeah, we still have a lot to do, but there's a few perches in here, right, Bob? Right, Bob? You got out here on the first day. Yeah, you weren't the first one out, but